Lynn Cullen live in 1 minute. Welcome to Lynn Cullen Live at pghcitypaper.com. Email your questions and comments to Lynn at pghcitypaper.com.
Well, hello there and welcome to a day. Since most of you listen on podcasts later, you're not listening live right now. I mean, this is this slippery, foggy, wet, scary, treacherous morning. Assuming you're listening later, you have survived the treacherous, slippery, wet, foggy, morning. Yeah, it's not pleasant out there, and a lot of people are struggling to get to work. The tea is not working. It got iced up or something. The buses are... everybody's going slow. Everybody's going slow, so you do that too. And if you don't have to go out, just stay in until some of this melts. All right. Even I'm getting weary of this winter. So, it's just you and me again today. God help us. Not that I'm including you in the responsibility to make an interesting hour. Far be it from me. Don't worry, I will carry the load. Let's see. Oh, just a few things. It's so funny. On the bus today, I noticed something that I hadn't noticed before, that there's some of the seats on the bus, if you're a short person, your feet don't touch the ground. Mm-hmm. Oh, see, Jess knows. So your feet don't touch the ground.
Can I sit, in the back?
If you sit in the back, they don't. Mm-hmm. If you sit on one of those elevated benches on the side, mm-hmm. they don't, mm-hmm. right? So I was looking at this, I was looking at a little girl who's sitting there, and her feet are, dangling. And then I looked at definitely an adult, but obviously short, and her feet were, I'd say, about 2 inches off the ground. And I got fixated on her feet because, as a relatively tall woman myself, this is not something that happens to me. My feet, whenever I sit down, can hit the ground. And the few times I have found myself in a situation where my feet are dangling in air, I am so uncomfortable. I am so miserable. I am so, I feel unstable somehow. I can't stand that feeling. But I suspect it's because I don't have to. So, Jess, it doesn't bother you if your feet are hanging there in midair. No, it doesn't, because that's the hand life has dealt you. Ha! Feet in the air. I could not take it. I could I could if I had to, but I can't take it anyway, for some reason. So, literally, that kept my attention for a good maybe 10 minutes today, which shows the state of my brain. I was looking for feet dangling in the air. Then I exited the vehicle, as they say. I got off the bus, and I'm doing my little geisha walk down what looked like an okay sidewalk, but you never know. So fearful after a certain age are you of falling down that these little mincing steps. My brother was saying that he walks that way sometimes when he's walking the dog and there's ice on the ground. He feels like he's emasculated in the process. And I understand that. I don't feel emasculated. I just feel like I look like an old lady, which technically I guess I am. So anyway, I'm mincing my way down the street toward this building. And I hear someone behind me saying, excuse me. And if somebody's behind you saying, excuse me, you do not know if they're talking to you, right? I mean, I was saying yesterday with my sister when we were talking how much I hate when somebody's coming toward you and they say, hi. And you say, you don't know them, but you say, hi. And then they walk right by you and obviously they were talking to somebody else, and how embarrassed I feel. Well, this is the opposite thing. Somebody's behind you saying, excuse me. And I mean, the bus just disgorged all of us onto the sidewalk. It could have been anybody. So I decided to ignore it and kept mincing my way down the street. And then I thought it became more insistent and clearly almost in my ear. So I stopped and turned, and yea, verily, there was a gentleman, and he definitely was looking at me. And I said, yes. And he said, has anyone ever told you that you look like Lynn Cullen?
Please tell me you pretended to not be your...
No, I couldn't. Sometimes I have fun with that, but I don't. No, he was so earnest. You never know. You know what? Here's what happened. I said, yes, because I am Lynn Cullen, I said. And you know what his response was? Oh, I'm sorry. And I think he said I guess he was sorry. I didn't understand why he said he was sorry, but I guess he said he was sorry because he didn't recognize me. But he did recognize me.
Maybe for bothering you.
No, I don't be bothering me, you think? I don't know. I said, sorry. Don't be sorry. Hello. And then he starts, oh, thank you so much for. Oh, thank you for, and thank you for this, and thank you for that, and I love you on. And I thought, oh, no, dear God, he's not going to say 4802. And he did.
You're the only one who doesn't like it.
All right. So he didn't know about this gig. So I told him, I said, hey, I'm still out there and I'm on my way and blah, 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 city paper, blah, 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 blah. So I want to welcome, sir, if you are joining us, nice to have met you. Thank you. Which it always reminds me when somebody comes up to me, because that happens. But this is reaching back, and I'm sure I've told the story before. I'm standing in the checkout line at the Giant Eagle, and a woman in front of me turns around and she sees me and she says, "Oh!" Now, this is a long time ago when I was on TV all the time. Oh! And that look of, I know you! That look of recognition where she spotted a TV person. And she said, I know who you are. And I gave her a big, smile. And she said, don't tell me. Don't tell me. I know you. Oh, I know who you are. And I just... I sat there waiting for her to, root around in her overfull closet, looking for my name. And I swear this agony went on and on and on. And I thought so I said, look, I finally couldn't take it anymore myself. And I said, I'm Lynn Cullen. And this was the response to that. No, that's not it. Oh, man, that was was a little confusing to me, I'll tell you that much. I think she thought I was Yvonne Zanos. Remember Yvonne? Beautiful Yvonne. I was always so appreciative when anybody mistook me for Yvonne because she was beautiful. We were both tall, thin at the time, tall, thin brunettes on television. And so we got mixed up in people's heads. She might have been the nicest human being ever. All right, I'm obviously doing one of those things where I just talk. So somebody sent me a whole bunch of audio of shows of Doug Hoerth, my former compatriot in talk radio. And it's a treasure trove, blast from the past. I don't know that any of these shows that he sent me are, important shows or shows in which something wondrous happened. There's just Doug shows. And I put the first one on, 2 days ago, and was, just doing housework. And it felt like 20 years ago. What fun. Doug was in high. I mean, he was that energy that he used to exude was coming through the radio. His audience were laughing, and what a gift for the gentleman to send me that, but also what a somewhat bittersweet memory, huh? Anyway, okay, I'll stop. I'll stop whatever this is I'm doing. Is there news? God, the news. Okay, so the news. The news in all the papers, and I wish I'd cut out all these headlines I was seeing, which look like, oh, God, this Congressional Budget Office report has said that Obamacare is going to cost 1 million gazillion jobs by 2,562, I don't know. And how the subtitle of a lot of the headlines I saw, Republicans react, Republicans pounce. So, first my heart sunk. I thought, oh, dear God, no, what's this? What do you mean that it's going to cost jobs? And then I started reading a little more carefully. It's not going to cost jobs. No jobs will be destroyed. This is where headline writers and media should be, I got to tell you, they should be lined up and shot for the fear and misinformation that they consistently promulgate. So, here's what it is. The CBO has sort of crunched the numbers, and they say that, well, given the fact that the existence of the Affordable Care Act is in many ways a liberating thing for many Americans by virtue of the fact that they no longer have to cling to some crap job that they hate because they can't get health insurance if they quit it. That those people no longer have to stay in those jobs or work full time or all kinds of things. So Republicans are out there now, oh my God, and it won't stop. You'll see it in ads, in attack ads for the fall elections. The Republicans are there saying this is a disaster, this is devastating, this is a debacle, you pick a D word. Why are all those D words mean something terrible? Destruction. So here's what it is. and I already alluded to it, many workers, and we know this for years, have felt stuck. Let's say you have a pre-existing condition. You're afraid to move. You're afraid to leave where you are because where you are, at least they have to keep you. And they have to keep you on their insurance. But the minute you untether yourself, you're floating out in this hostile environment in which no one will insure you. Well, it turns out you add up the number of people who are doing that, you might get about 1 million. So the CBO report is only noting that by their estimation, the cumulative effect on how many people are going to stay in the labor market now with this liberating government insurance possibility. It's not government insurance. With the fact that the law now does not allow them to be discriminated against in the United States. The cumulative effect on the labor supply, the CBO figures, by the year 2024, which is closer than you think, 2024, that they figure about 2.5 million workers will say, bye, I'm going fishing. Those are not lost jobs. Those are workers. Those are people who now have more control of their lives. That's what that is. So, I mean, if you hear otherwise, if the headlines suggest otherwise, don't trouble your pretty little head about it, okay? There's a lot of misinformation out there. So, there you have it. There's choice. It's about choice. People have choices. Well, I could do this, but if I do that, if I work a little harder, then I won't get the subsidy. This is what Republicans don't like. Then I won't get this subsidy. It's fine. People, anyway, whatever. Mostly that CBO report was relatively positive. It does suggest, and I think this is a more interesting aspect of it rather than a lot of misinformation or hysteria surrounding the Affordable Care Act. It talks about the aging population of the United States, and that is going to be the big drain on our economy, not the availability of health insurance. It's the fact that people like me, those damn baby boomers, are aging, and there's such a big bulge, and all those old farts are going to be a drain. That's a drain. Though they are not working, they are in fact sucking up all kinds of governmental money. The economy is going to be slowed by that demographic and that reality. It's like, if you look at the Japanese economy, you look at Europe too. Europe is an aging population. Japan, very aged population. And you see that it has a, the word I want to say, and I don't know why it's there, deleterious impact on a national economy. So, this brings us then to the caller, and I bet you're out there, who's brought up immigration for 2 days running. The only real hope for nations that have these aging populations is for younger populations to come in to the country. And ideally, younger populations who beget more children, who reproduce at a greater level. And so, as I have been saying, immigration's a very complicated subject. But all those old boomers who are not going to be putting into the economy, but will be sapping the economy, and I'm sorry, I'm really sorry we're not all dead. I'm really sorry. But that will require a lot of younger people. We ain't producing them like we used to. We're an older population. You bring them in. They come in. And you welcome them. Believe me, if you can look at the bigger picture, that is the case. All right, let's check up on some Chris writes, love hearing you talk about Doug. Oh, Doug is so missed. If only Doug, you know it. God, how I wish I had some of those tapes to listen to. How do we get those? Well, he always put a smile on my face. I miss him every single day. Also love hearing about Yvonne Zanos. I can still remember the story you told that I think one of her daughters told at the funeral service. It was when Yvonne was on the air with the countdown to lighting of the Christmas tree downtown. Why don't I remember it? I don't remember it. Somebody help me with that story, because it was a funny story. That was one of the funniest stories I ever heard, says Chris. Chris! Tell me the story. If you remember, can you repeat it again to let your audience know what a genuine and good person Yvonne was? There are so many stories to tell you what a good, genuine person she was. So many. Oh, what a wonderful human being. So many good people gone. Yvonne, Doug, Phil Music, Lawrence, and no one to replace them. No. And the thing is we never, it's always a kick in the teeth, because you realize that while people are here, even if we appreciate them, there's always a sense that we didn't enough somehow when they get taken away. It's true. Rob writes, oh my God, what I would what I would pay to hear Doug's old shows. And Anthony wants to know where he can get those shows I'm talking about. I'll talk to some people. I got them on, somebody emailed them to me. Jess, can I stick something like that on Facebook? Or no?
It's already on the internet.
Not unless it's already on the... I'll look more closely at what the source is, okay? Because maybe they're out there. And they are accessible, and you can enjoy Doug, while you're cleaning the house. Lynn, the guy who wrote you that email and thought you might be interested in knowing, there are quite a few clips of Uncle Dougie on YouTube. Okay, so check out YouTube. There, and I'll see maybe where I can get that. Because he's the one I heard, and the one I heard was a relatively. It was from WPTT. It was not TAE. It was WPTT, and so Lawrence wasn't in this one, and but it was a good dose of Doug, and that energy. And intelligence and just fun he brought. It was fun to listen to him because he was having fun. That is ultimately why he was so good. He was in seventh heaven. And he took us along. Oh. All right. We sound like a bunch of old people talking about old people. Reminiscing. Good God. I'm taking a break, guys. I shall be right back.
Stick around for more with Lynn Cullen Live after this.
Download the brand new CP Haps app and find out what's going on in Pittsburgh. It's the fun and free app that puts the most popular events at your fingertips. Text events to 77948 to download now and register to win tickets to see Billy Joel at the Consol Energy Center February 21st. Plus, lots of great free stuff every week. The CP Haps app, brought to you by Pittsburgh City Paper.
Moments in Black History, brought to you by Highmark Blue Cross Blue Shield. Have a greater hand in your health.
Wilt the Stilt Chamberlain is ranked as one of the best offensive players in the history of basketball. He was born in Philadelphia in 1939. By the time Chamberlain entered high school, he was already 6'1". He played 2 years of basketball at Kansas University, then left to play professionally. Chamberlain played with the Harlem Globetrotters, the Philadelphia 76ers, and the Los Angeles Lakers. He is the only player in history to have scored 100 points in a single game. Chamberlain led the NBA in scoring from 1959 to 1967 and was the first player to score 30,000 points. Wilt Chamberlain retired from basketball in 1974 and was inducted into the Basketball Hall of Fame 5 years later.
I've seen too many of my neighbors affected by stroke, but Highmark is helping us change that by sponsoring our community stroke programs. Caring isn't new for Highmark. I know. I've been a member for 40 years. I'm Jerry Ann Allen, and I'm better with Blue.
We're reinventing affordable health care by keeping the places we call home healthy. It's why our communities are better with Highmark Blue Cross Blue Shield. Highmark Blue Cross Blue Shield is an independent licensee of the Blue Cross and Blue Shield Association, subject to the terms of your benefit plan.
You're listening to Lynn Cullen Live at pghcitypaper.com. Once again, here's Lynn Cullen.
All righty, here. You know what? I actually have but this is one of those. This is one of those addresses that just.
From YouTube.
Yes, but if I were to give them this,
That should work.
you guys go get a pencil or something.
Oh, no.
No?
Don't do that.
Because
Send
that
it to
takes
me,
forever.
and I will put it on your Facebook.
Send that to you.
Yeah, and then I can
Okay,
put it up.
on my Facebook, we are going to.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So just email that to me.
Gotcha.
Okay.
I'm so bewildered and lost. Okay, hang on. So I'm just going to forward this to, and we should have that up there relatively soon. There, it's okay. All right. Hey, hi. How you doing?
Hey, quit making it so difficult. Just type in. All anybody has to do is if they have internet access, which most people do, and they'll need to have anyway to get to your Facebook page. All they have to do is type in Doug Hoerth.
Okay.
And a few of the first, maybe top 2 or 3 searches are YouTube links to the files where they can go. There was the one I did it while you were on break, and there was one of 12. So there are at least 12 you can listen to.
Okay,
the one that
good.
I clicked on was him and Lawrence.
Oh, it was.
Yeah, it was like the best of Lawrence or something like that.
Oh, how wonderful.
Yeah, it was interesting. I actually got to sit in studio with him when he was doing his Doug Friday and Friends, Doug and Friends or whatever. The interesting experience to be on the inside and see how he operated.
Yeah, what sticks with you?
Well, the main thing is every time there was a break, he would run as fast as he possibly could to smoke a little bit of a cigarette, and then come running back to the studio to get back on air at the time. But he was just such a pro, which I'm sure it would be the same with sitting you in the studio, but he was just such a pro at the way he handled everything. I mean, he just, well, and the other thing that I always liked about Doug was the fact that the radio that he grew up listening to was when radio was, cutting edge, and he used to talk about laying in his bedroom and turning the dial on his radio and turning the radio, trying to get different stations, and listening to, what was his name, Gene?
Oh, from jeez.
Gene Shepard?
Yes, Gene Shepard.
Is that who it was?
Yes, that's who it is.
And his just really interesting. I mean, I think if we could ask Doug, he would say that was probably his biggest influence as far as talk.
And storytelling. Storytelling.
Yeah, exactly.
Which,
and then there's the whole other doo-wop side.
Yes.
That was just
ordinary,
encyclopedic knowledge. So.
Right.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
And we appreciate you, Lynn.
Well, thank you. I feel appreciated. Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Shoot! There was such a thought, and it just... How do you spell his last name? That's a good question, because it's a difficult spelling. Yeah. I mean, it's not what you think. It's Hoerth. Hoerth. And then you'll... And if you guys go looking, we'll put it up on Facebook.
Yeah,
but
there'll be 20 videos.
There's 20 videos that we're putting up on my Facebook page. But as the caller just said, just Google it or go to YouTube and stick them in there, and there's a ton of stuff. So he lives. He lives. Well, back in the day before cigarettes were, verboten, Doug just smoked through the I mean, oh, my God. I remember when we would sometimes do those shows where we were all on all day. We did a 9-hour marathon. Oh, God, was that exhausting. He's smoking, music smoking. And can you imagine the amount of smoke? Because back then, it was just the way things were. You lived in this existence of total smoke. I probably smoked the equivalent just by breathing in there, smoked the equivalent of maybe a pack during the course of that show. So it was really hard on Doug when you couldn't smoke in the studio, and then you couldn't smoke in the building, and then you couldn't smoke just about anywhere. Yeah, well, quite a character, guys. Quite a character. Now, Chris thinks she's got the story? You think you remember the Yvonne story? No. Okay, let's hear it. From how I remember me telling the story, oh, God, my brain. Yvonne was down at the lighting of the Christmas tree, they used to have up on horns. And she wanted to make sure everything was in place oh, that's right. She wanted to make sure everything was in place before she went on the air. So she asked her producer to give her the countdown to when she would be on the air, and she couldn't hear him that well. So she was repeating the countdown. I don't think this is quite right. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And she was saying it loud enough that the crowd at where she was, downtown, thought she was counting down for when the tree was going to be illuminated. So she had everyone in the crowd counting down with her. Anyway, it's not quite it. It's close, but she's right. She's, oh, God. Also, Chris writes that on Facebook there is a Doug Hoerth fan club group. So I would think that site, okay, so he lives. All of this stuff that Doug would have eschewed, all the, the technology that allows him to still be there. He was worse than me. I mean, he really didn't comprehend it. He was afraid to get a computer because he thought it would, he would become addicted to it. He knew his personality, and he thought if he had a computer, he'd be one of these people who would never leave. He would just be stuck in front of a screen constantly. And he did eventually get a computer, and I suspect he did pretty much stay on it constantly. Because, I mean, Doug was what that word that I was looking for the other, Doug was the quintessential autodidact. Somebody who educated himself. He never went to college. I think he was a little defensive about that. And, man, he needn't have been. Because he knew more than most people who did, because he was a voracious reader. Rob is remembering that every October, Doug would start this big campaign up so that his listeners would send him birthday cards. I could never figure that one, because I figure if you have to ask for a birthday card, it doesn't mean anything. But, oh, he loved that. And they'd come in in just droves. It was like Christmas every day when the mailman came. Okay, nostalgia. Oh, Lord. Speaking of smoking, yow, the big news today, CVS says it ain't going to sell any cigarettes anymore and is not going to sell any tobacco products. The company figures it could cost them $2 billion in revenue this year. But they don't think in the end it will cost them anything, and anyway, they'll be able to sleep at night, I guess. The CVS CEO said it's the right thing for us to do for our customers and our company. And I believe he went on to say that cigarettes have no place in a setting where health care is being delivered. So CVS does that. You got to figure probably some others are going to do it. And I'm starting to wonder, where's some poor schmo supposed to buy a pack of cigarettes after a while? I mean, God, there's an old movie, The Loneliness of the Long-Distance Runner. I'm thinking of the loneliness of a cigarette smoker. Where are they supposed to... There's no place for them to smoke, and now the places that they can even get the stuff they want, they can't, are drying up. It's tough. Okay. Somebody just sent me another YouTube thing, which has Gertrude Wilson's pumpkin pie recipe, which I think is a brilliant Doug show. And that's on YouTube. So there's a trove there, a treasure trove. It's good to know. You know, personally, I never saved any shows. I suspect Doug did. And he probably, with his encyclopedic memory, probably could tell you the date on which, every show, who was a guest, what he said, what was happening. Whereas if you ask me 10 minutes after a show, what'd you talk about today? I can't remember. I've never been able to. Somebody turned me on to this, and I just want to, for those of you who are interested in cinema and independent cinema and even experimental cinema, there is going to be a once-only showing at Southside Works on February 18th, if that's a Tuesday night at 7, okay, for a movie called Tango Macbeth. And this thing has played a lot of arts venues and also, what do you call those? Festivals. And it's a real head-turning kind of a thing, from what I can tell. And there will be the director will be there, and there'll be a Q&A after, and it's just so you know. If you're interested, you think, just check out TangoMacbeth.com. It is Macbeth. It's a movie about a stage production of Macbeth, which is being filmed by a documentary crew. So it's got movies on top of movies on top of plays, and then there's this tango aspect that it's very unusual. Unlike any version of Macbeth you have ever seen. It won the Best Documentary at Chicago's African American Women in the Arts Film Festival. And also the director and producer is a mother-daughter team, African American women. And one of the guys from The Wire is one of the guys in it, if you were a Wire aficionado. So I just want to tell you that. That's February 18th, 7 p.m. at Southside Works. And just check out Tango Macbeth if you think you might be interested. It's for people who have, hungry heads regarding such sort of cutting-edgy, out-of-the-box productions. Just wanted to tell you that. And there is some Pittsburgh connection in that I think the assistant director is a Pittsburgh woman. I'm going to take a break. And when we come back, I'll head back into the news. The news of the day. Because there are things happening. And we'll talk after this.
More is on the way with Lynn Cullen Live.
BergBargains.com is the best bet for great Valentine's Day deals. Log on today for exclusive deals from your favorite local restaurants like Burger, Harris Grill, Verde, Pittsburgh Grill Downtown, and Willow. Sign up for the weekly email update for your chance to win a $100 gift card from the Sewickley Spa. The all-new BergBargains.com, Pittsburgh's best bargains, BergBargains.com.
Need to get some rest. This is the worst headache ever.
Right arm's all tingly all of a sudden. Must have slept on it last night.
I keep losing my balance. These old bones need some exercise.
Granddaddy, what you just said doesn't even make sense. It sounds like gibberish.
Signs like these could be more than what they seem. They could be a sign of stroke.
Sudden weakness or numbness of the face, arm, or leg.
Sudden trouble with vision in one or both eyes.
Sudden trouble walking or difficulty with balance.
Or a sudden intense headache that comes out of nowhere.
If you or someone you know has any of these symptoms, don't wait. Call 911 immediately. You could make a difference in someone's life, someone you love, maybe even your own.
Time lost is brain lost.
Find out more at powertoendstroke.org. Brought to you by the American Heart Association, American Stroke Association, and the Ad Council.
Have a question or an opinion? Call Lynn Cullen at 412-316-3381 or email lynn@pghcitypaper.com. Now, more with Lynn Cullen Live.
All right, so I'm going to go back to the poor police dog for a second. Police dog who was killed in the line of action. No, what do they call that? Line of
duty. No.
Line of duty?
I think so, right?
No, that doesn't sound quite right. Is it line of duty?
I think
Okay,
so.
all of a sudden that doesn't sound right.
I don't know.
Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah, you're right. It is line of duty. Killed in action, in the line of duty. Line of duty?
It is.
Yeah, I know, but doesn't that sound odd?
Yeah, it doesn't.
Yeah.
Weird.
All right, never mind Jess and me. I remember that's so odd when something you know all of a sudden doesn't sound right. Or even if you've ever been writing something and you write a word and it just looks totally wrong and you know it's right, but you think, does that ever happen to you? Yeah, it does. Okay, whatever. So the dog, Rocco. The guy who stabbed and who killed the dog is a guy named John Rush. And everybody wants to string this guy up. But the more you if you look at his history, this is a classic case of a guy who clearly has mental illness, like untreated mental illness or something. It's so obvious, and people who know him say that when his like mercurial, crazy, this, then he's normal, then he's this, then he's that. Okay, so this is again another instance where, as a society, we do not help ourselves or the poor souls who struggle with mental illness by criminalizing them. Now, if because of mental illness they do crime, it would seem that the smarter way to deal with them is through some kind of psychiatric incarceration until they're deemed fixed, rather than simply punitive incarceration, which is what we do. So instead of mental hospitals now, we have prisons. That's stupid. And if we could all, I won't say no one loves dogs more than me. I'm sure there's some that are out of their minds with their love of dogs. I love dogs. I love cats. I love animals. And I think because of that love we have for them, we can become irrational in an instance like this, where this animal was killed. No one's thinking of the perp here, and I've started to think about him. Because here's a guy who's had a hellish existence, who does nothing but get himself into trouble, who's scary, who's violent, and I'm willing to bet is mentally ill. But we don't help him. And the consequence is people get hurt, dogs get hurt. All kinds of havoc results. I also want to say about that, so there's a thought that's been in my head about the dog. And the other thought I had is that when this perp first found himself after killing the dog, allegedly killing the dog, found himself before the law in the form of District Judge James Motznick, who served a short spell on Pittsburgh City Council, if you'll recall. And when the dog killer found himself before Judge Motznick, the judge set his bail at $1 million. When I heard that, I wish I'd talked about this earlier, but when I heard that, I thought, oh, come on. This is an abuse of Judge Motznick's power. He is being emotional. He is showing his revulsion at the crime by setting this absurd bail. If he didn't want the guy to be able to be out of jail, then he just should have set no bail. $1 million is the same as no bail. But I'm sure a guy like this, $100,000 would have probably been enough to keep him in. Whatever. It was, and I was glad to see another judge, Judge Manning, who held a bond hearing for the perp yesterday. I was glad that he said something about Motznick. Because Motznick, keep an eye on him. Maybe with this brushback, he'll watch himself. But there was another case not too long ago, and that involved the shooting at a outside a Pittsburgh high school. You'll recall this. Motznick got himself involved in a way he should not have in that case, too. I don't think he quite comprehends what his new job is, and that his new job does not afford him the kind of leeway to vent that his old job on the city council did. He does not seem to have what we would call a judicial temperament. So he does these things, $1 million bail, then he talks to reporters, and he gets his picture in the paper and his name in the paper and all that stuff. That's not what judges are supposed to do. And Judge Manning reminded him of that yesterday. He criticized Motznick, which is, that doesn't happen too often, a judge criticizing another judge from the bench. He criticized Motznick, saying, setting $1 million bond is nothing but magisterial grandstanding. And Manning also, he wasn't done with him. He went on to say, and it's totally improper for Motznick to speak to reporters about his reasons for setting the bond at $1 million. And then Judge Manning made perfectly clear that Motznick would have nothing more to do with the case. But grandstanding is the exact right word. And he's done it before. I'm just pointing it out. He's been on my radar as a bit of a loose cannon, and here you go again. Oh. So, West Virginia. I got to tell you, if you lived in Charleston, West Virginia, or in any of those little towns in the Kanawha Valley that were affected by this malfeasance, if not criminal conduct, on the part of not only Freedom Industries, but also the local water company, which seemed to be asleep at the switch. Would you drink that water now? No. Jess would not. Would you take a shower in it? Yeah. She'd take a shower, but she wouldn't drink. Would you cook with it? No. Would you brush your teeth with it? No. Would you give it to the dog? No. I'm in agreement with all of Jess's reactions, and apparently, even though those 300,000 people have been told, go ahead, a whole bunch of them won't do it. And they're smart because they are fully aware that the people telling them, go ahead and drink it, it's perfectly safe, don't know that that is true. Here's something that would chill my blood if I were one of those people. State officials in West Virginia are asking Congress to support a 10-year study to monitor the long-term health of residents of the Kanawha Valley. Now, if you knew that the state that had already told you go ahead and drink the water is, on the other hand, begging the feds to do a 10-year study on the impact on your health of drinking this water and all of that stuff, would you drink the water? No. The fact is nobody has a clue what that particular chemical means to a human being. The only study ever done on it, on a living thing, was done on rats like 20 years ago or 40 years ago. I don't know. It was forever ago. And it had nothing to do with humans because supposedly humans were never going to come in contact with this chemical, so what difference did it make? So there is an effort, of course, in the Congress of the United States, lots of luck, by the way, to strengthen some of the requirements for storage of these chemicals, especially if they are stored upstream from the water facility and there's holes in them, their tanks. And there was a hearing in the Senate yesterday, and it's just amazing how the industry reps, they're all there, and they are aggrieved, and they are whining, and they are crying that they are already so regulated that the government is only going to, make it impossible for them to make $100 gazillion million a year. Let me assure you, from what I understand, that nothing much will come out of the U.S. Senate. And it'll be interesting to see if they don't really tighten up the regulations, but they do provide money to see if people start dropping dead at a premature age at an alarming rate in the Kanawha Valley because they do this 10-year study. I would not touch that water. And what does that do to your life? Hello, caller.
Hello.
Hi.
Do you think that study is any different than the? Are we at the tail end of a multiple-year study on fracking in Pennsylvania? Those just seem like delay tactics. They just went with a really crazily long 10-year delay tactic, and they'll just say, well, we don't know anything for 10 years. They've been doing there's other studies over there in Huntington on those, the effects of there was a factory there that made the chemical for Teflon, and there's studies going on about that. It's just there's study after study while they don't do anything.
Oh, God. That was in Huntington. Now, Huntington was out of this...
it's a different chemical and that study on the Teflon, I think, has been going on for many years. I don't even know where it went. You just every once in a while hear about it in West Virginia news.
You know what?
It just seems this is the current thing. It's like we don't know. We don't know. It's
no.
Like,
Would you live there? Wouldn't you pick up and leave? I mean, I personally think I would. I don't know.
Well, I believe that West Virginia is one of only 2 states that lost population last year. So, yes, that's what people do.
They leave. No, that is a godforsaken... I really... The thing is that when I was thinking about this, if I lived there, so I would not use that water, I would not drink that water. If I were a person of some means, I could sort of pull that off, right? I could do that. But most people in West Virginia are not people of means, and so they're going to drink the water.
Yeah, there was a thing on NPR last night that, the water is continuing to be delivered to people. I was surprised to hear that. I thought it was done that they were delivering water. There's still places where people can drive to pick up water, but that's only, you can't bathe in that water. And
the thing is, people are still doing it because they don't believe the authorities that it's safe to drink, and so they're demanding that they still have access to clean water. It's
and I'm assuming. It's the frightening thing to me is that's the people that are thinking about it and trying to pay attention. There's I don't know what numbers those are, but there's still all the other people out there. I mean, you think about how difficult it is these days to get information. You know, radio stations are rebroadcasting something from some national center. How many people are reading the newspaper down there?
That's correct.
Believe it or not, Charleston is actually a 2-newspaper town. But I think they're both owned by the same place. But there's still 2 newspapers being printed there. But
wow,
I don't know how many people read it. It's a strange place. But the other thing, at a risk of completely changing the subject, I wanted to tell you that did you know that WTAE story that you were talking about last week was picked up by conservatives nationally?
Yes, and thank you.
It was interesting to hear that being rebroadcast on a Christian station on Friday afternoon.
Wow. Well, let me tell you, I was aware, somebody told me that Wendy Bell story that we feel was just replete with incorrect information and fear-mongering, has become the darling of right-wing media. Glenn Beck has run it. You just said this Christian station has. John Boehner mentioned it.
Yeah, I think I have a feeling that they knew what they were doing from the outset. That guy clearly has the means and the connections that he knew what he was doing.
Charles Moore, smart cookie, and he played TAE like a cheap fiddle.
Yeah, and there's been no response from WTAE.
No.
Is that true?
No.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Okay, bye-bye. I mean, no response to me. I believe what they did say, I think their assignment manager or somebody who's in charge there told Aaron Neinhauser that they would welcome if she were to feed them, again, use them, and a story that shows a positive spin on, and they will do another story that shows how wonderful the Affordable Care Act is for a small employer or something. But they will not return to that story, which has been happily embraced by every right-wing media outlet that wants to demonize and further frighten people about the Affordable Care Act. So well done, TAE. Way to go, Wendy! Ray writes, maybe we should stop the barbaric practice of using dogs to attack citizens. I wonder if we can ascribe the same nobility to the police dogs biting the shit out of civil rights marchers in the 60s. Whoa. Ray, your head works in wondrous ways. Because you complicate everything, and that's great. I cannot, Ray says, surrender to a dog. I cannot reason with a dog, appeal to a dog's mercy. Dogs bite, and they bite good people and bad people for the same reason. The police have no problem shooting a bad guy's dog, do they? We are so screwed up. Ray, I get the impression you're in a little bit of a depression these days. Are you? Join the club if you are. Really? Well, thank you all so very much. Margaret has a weird idea of having all of you send me eulogies of me. No, I don't want to. Don't! I believe you should have a show on your eulogy. Everyone would call in or write stories about you like they would if you were dead. That way you could hear what people think of you. Well, I've often thought that if you know you're dying, it would be a great thing to let people say to you before you went what they would say at your funeral. That is true. I'm just not quite ready for something like this right now. All right, that's it for the show today. I ain't dead yet. Sokolowski will not be joining us again tomorrow. He is he has a medical issue, which you've probably figured, and he's still requiring some attention to that. So we will again send your prayers his way, and we will hope that Tom will rejoin us next week. Okay? Don't break your neck out there. Toodaloo.
Lynn Cullen Live, Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. and archived at pghcitypaper.com. The opinions expressed on Lynn Cullen Live are those of the host and do not necessarily reflect the viewpoints of Pittsburgh City Paper, Steel City Media, and its advertisers.